clinicians, for doctors, for
Get
parents.
to know the patient, where they're at, and what their actual
There's thousands and
questions are.
thousands of us out
My
there.
story doesn't have a sad
Once you
ending.
realize that there's other people out there,
all of a sudden, you don't feel alone. You don't feel different. You don't feel like a freak.
Hi, my name is Kitty Anderson. I'm 35 years old and I live in Reykjavík, Iceland. And yeah, I'm intersex. I was told when I was 13 that I had an androgen-insensitive body, so my body doesn't respond to testosterone in the same way that most bodies do. I had surgery as a child to remove what I was told was non-functioning gonadal tissue. It wasn't until I was 22 that I learned the fact that I had been born with testes, internal testes. That was kind of rough for me because when I was told, I also found out that my mother had known since I was 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old. So for me, that was a very hard moment because it was such a huge breach of trust that people could keep something like this from me for such a long time. I had a lot of shame at that time in my life because I was told that I wouldn't find other people like myself. And then 2 years later, I found someone just like myself when my cousin was born. And for me, that point in time made me realize that even though I was having these feelings of shame about myself, that they weren't really valid or real. It was something that had been done to me which caused me to feel these feelings of shame. And my mother sort of just said, well, look at your cousin. Do you think that way about her? And I really couldn't even imagine thinking about another person in the same way that I was thinking about myself. So I started coming out to some of my friends when I went to live in Australia for a year. And this sort of fear that I had wasn't that people would freak out was sort of never realized. Like everything I got told when I was a teenager, it was all lies. Every time I went to see my doctor, he would tell me, well, you can't talk about this. This is private. If you tell people, they'll have bad reactions. My cousin went to the same doctor and got the same lessons taught to her, but at that time we sort of realized that hiding information about someone from them was not the way to go. Kids are smart. Like, there is no information about a child that a child is too young to be able to understand or process. This entire teaching of it being so difficult for society that they're not able to understand, it's complete hogwash. For any parent of a child with a variation in sex characteristics, what your child needs is love. And what your child needs is unconditional acceptance. Accept and love your children for who they are. For doctors out there thinking that there's still a need to take drastic medical measures to normalize us, you really have to examine what your motivation behind that is. Because if it's a motivation of disgust, if it's a motivation of this body not being acceptable enough, that means you're projecting your own values onto a child's body at a very young age before they can actually tell you what they want. For doctors who work with intersex adults, you need to start listening to the people who come to you. Realize that they've often gone through traumatic events before they show up at your door. And that they know who they are. We see a huge level of gatekeeping and bad medical advice going out to adults as well. For governments, you need to start looking at what the UN is saying. The UN Committee of the Rights of the Child, the UN Committee Against Torture, Cruel and Degrading and Inhumane Treatment, all saying the same thing, that the current treatment paradigm has to end. And we need one that's based on psychosocial support, not normalization. Everybody is precious. Everybody is important. And nobody is shameful.